Just imagine Jiang Chong, a guy who goes from gamer to skeleton in a game world where everything is bullshit. He is reincarnated as the weakest of the weak, thrown into a bizarre desert full of bizarre creatures like zombie wolves. The only thing that can save him is an infinite evolution system, a very rare power which makes him stronger every time he fights. The thing is, fighting is already routine for Jiang Chong, but now the risk is serious. It failed. It turned to dust forever. Can he overcome his limits, or will he become just another skeleton lost in the desert? Let's follow this journey. In a desolate, hopeless desert, we find Jiang Chong amidst several dead skeletons, and he's apparently going base as well. This guy used to be a professional gambler, but now he just crawls for what's left of his life. Unfortunately, he turned into a beautiful skeleton, and until now he can't understand how he got there. He can't even reach his skeleton sword, and when he was getting very close, a zombie wolf steps on him, crushing the rest of his bones. He looks at the animal's face without understanding anything. Why is this happening in his life, or better said, death? In 2025, there was a game called Grit Wasteland, which was open to the public as a trial version. That game was a much improved version, and the level of realism in it was incredible. It has attracted many players around the world, being quite popular and well known. Within that game, there were some very powerful spells, swords, and extremely efficient objects, which humanity had not yet discovered. But Grid Wasteland turned all of this into reality. With thousands of roles, hundreds of millions of missions available, countless players have been able to settle into this incredible fantasy world. But not everything is rosy. The popularity of the game generated a huge number of requests for the studio to quickly produce several units and be able to improve the game even more, much faster. It also managed to attract a fairly large number of volunteers who continued tirelessly working overtime to be able to test the game. Among the testers of the trial version of the Great Grit Wasteland is our protagonist, who is one of the testers. But almost 2 weeks before the game's release, that guy started to feel enormous pain after completing a large number of missions in just 42 hours. In 2 days, he began to feel a lot of attacks in his heart. People there can't believe this is happening. That guy goes from base to base. One of the guys asks if he has any equipment in his inventory, and the other is worried that if he dies in the game, no one will be able to get his inventory and the items he has. But while people were worried about just that, he died suddenly, poor thing. And out of nowhere, he found himself with a girl telling him if he doesn't move, he'll go base. That girl, despite being very strange, is very beautiful, and he doesn't know what's going on. As she thanks God that he's already up, he wonders where he is, but he remains somewhat paralyzed, looking straight ahead. He can't understand that, right? While she already tells him to get out of there quickly, but in the following moments, an explosion happens in that place, throwing everyone away. He then realizes, along with her, that there is an elite zombie wolf there. The girl then asks him to go there and send that wolf as base, but he soon thinks that that animal is a zombie wolf that is found in the lives of beginners in the game. Now he understood. He died, but he is not in heaven or hell. He's in that game. He's right in the starting village of the Death Desert. As he thinks about the whole situation and understands what he is in for, the wolf calmly walks towards him. He was reincarnated within the game itself. The girl continues to warn him that if he continues looking at the wolf without doing anything, the two of them will go base. He better hurry. While he is thinking who this girl is, and she is even giving him a lot of orders, the wolf continues to look terrifying and attacks the two. As he opens his mouth and prepares to chew them both, he thinks that this is a zombie wolf, a level 2 carnivorous monster, but it doesn't have much meat, right? Why is this wolf attacking him? This wolf's weak point is right in its neck. He has already killed many of these animals during testing the game. Then he takes his bone sword and attacks the monster, saying that now is the time for the dick. He's going to send the space animal. After all, its weak point is right in the neck, and he only strikes one blow. But apparently that coup didn't work out very well. Even if he knew the wolf's weak point, he is very fragile, and his hand has already gone into space. The wolf, after falling to the ground, kicks him and he flies away, and he doesn't understand why he's so weak. But after he falls to the ground, he realizes that he's been reincarnated as a damn low-level skeleton soldier. Poor guy. This means that his body was summoned by a necromancer, also of low level. So he decides to take the sword, but in the following moments, we see again that the wolf is crushing him with its paws. Yeah, it won't be enough time. Why does his life have to end like this, right after it started? This guy became an extremely young professional. He managed to win several championships, leaving behind an incredible record of highlights in the world of professional players. At that time, he also thought he was the all-powerful protagonist of the real world, but a car accident changed everything, poor guy, and left some effects on his body. His hands were shaking a lot, and his skill as a player plummeted a lot. He was unable to continue his career as a professional player. Unfortunately, in order to pay his bills and medical expenses, he had to end up breaking his contract. But as a former pro, he had to hold his own again. So, he managed to become a beta player, right? It's better than nothing. Even though he resisted his cruel fate, in the end, he ended up dying again. Do nothing, accomplish nothing, and no kind of dream. Well, he heard that he didn't even need to call the doctor after all. That guy is already dead. It's best to call the funeral home. Insert un. While others grumbled that that guy had a lot of items in his inventory, and now all the items are going to be lost along with him. One of the distraught people there has already said that he will inform the family that the guy died and pay the compensation money to the relatives, and also give his condolences. Another already contests, saying no. Why are we going to give money to his family? This guy died and left all the items in your inventory. He's the one who owes us money. But the other then agrees and continues laughing and thinks that the company can really do this. This guy will owe money until after he dies. Yet another goes on to say that he won a world championship as a player before, so maybe he doesn't have any regrets. While he's there, listening to everything, telling everyone to get lost. No regrets? Damn, this guy, his last name is Regret. He doesn't want to die there like that. And he then pleads with God if he can be given another chance. He will definitely control his own destiny this time. While being transmuted, becoming a skeletal being, he then managed to pick up his bone sword, and soon a system was detected, a strong will to live, soon activating his divine evolutionary system. This is a beautiful system that will allow the user to evolve infinite until they reach their peak and become the strongest creature in the world, destined to be practically a god. When he was about to be sent back to base, the system activated a special packet and it starts to activate. His health has been fully restored, and his weapon, get this, has been upgraded. His attributes increased by 100% for 30 seconds. It's the chance he needed to send this wolf zombie to the base. He then takes his sword, which used to be made of bone and is now very cute, and slices that wolf right in its weak spot, saying that his goal now is just to survive and get stronger. That wolf is no longer a threat anymore, and he actually succeeded. And after everything is over, a rain starts, and the buff soon ends. He killed a level 3 zombie wolf and got 10 evolution experience points. Yeah, he finally managed to survive. He observes his body and thinks it's not that bad. While the girl in the back watches that skeleton, that desert of death is very realistic and also has incredible freedom, having a map that can be immensely explored. And because of that, the mechanics of those death deserts have infinite possibilities that can be activated. Creatures that are summoned by players have a very small chance of undergoing some type of mutation, and we see there that that girl summoned nothing more, nothing less than a mutated skeleton. The mutant summoned creatures will be of great help for a player to level up and level up. Killing monsters above your level is no longer a dream, it's totally reality, and that then explains why she is so lucky. The moment she saw that weak creature killing a much higher level animal, she realized that she found a mutation in her summoned one. She then obtained the Wolf's Fang. Zombie wolf drop can be used for a synthesis equipment, and it's also worth a copper coin. She notices that there are several materials scattered across the floor, so that will be enough to pay next month's rent. That's a lot of money, and she was quite happy. She watches the wolf trying to collect all the items there to farm new equipment and synthesize or even sell. She doesn't even recognize that creature she just summoned, and she can also summon up to 3 skeleton soldiers, and she currently only has 1. But her summoning level is still very low. But even so, that skeleton over there already far surpasses level 1 skeletons. While there, the little skeleton is already sending several zombie wolves from base. That beginner area no longer poses any threat to it. Surviving there is no longer a problem. After all, his level has already increased a lot, about 3 consecutive levels, but he didn't expect to be reborn in a game world, especially in a wilderness game, and the person who summoned him is clearly a player. While he thinks about everything that happened in his life, she is there collecting some materials and thinking she is going to get rich. The little thing tries to talk to her, but he's just a skeleton and has no vocal cords or tongue, so he won't be able to say anything. But still, it is surprising that he has a system, even though he is a summoned creature, that divinity level evolution system. As long as he keeps killing monsters and leveling up, or even people, he still manages to evolve. The system then notifies him of a new message. You can earn evolution points by hunting wild monsters, players, and use them to evolve. You can earn strengthening points by killing elite bosses and also some bosses. Once you reach a level, those elite strengthening points will be activated. This then means that strengthening can even strengthen your weapons. After all, those weapons he has, even if they have been upgraded, are still pretty bad. He has participated in testing that game several times, but has never heard of a system or upgrades and new skills or weapons. What about a creature summoned with this system, which can evolve alone? This is totally out of line. He is now a low-level reborn skeleton soldier. If he wants to continue evolving, he will have to get a little closer to a much more dangerous place, so he can get more points and reach a slightly higher level. He managed to obtain a total of evolution points of 110, while the strengthening points are still locked at 100. Now is the first evolution. He will then spend 100 evolution points to become a skeleton swordsman. Then, the system asks him if he wants to become yes or no. He doesn't have any choice. After all, becoming strong is no longer an option. He will then test the limits of the evolution of that system, and then press yes. Then the system soon fills with power and says that evolution will begin. An enormous firepower hangs over him, and during its evolution, it has 3 seconds of protection. His health increased by 80%, his mana increased by 80%, and all of his attributes improved. All attributes there increased by about 80%. This is incredible, and he also received a very good weapon, the one exclusive to the skeletal swordsman, Boneblade Steel Sword Weapon. Even though he is just a summoned skeleton, the system continues to congratulate him. The player has evolved into a second-order skeleton swordsman. Note that the system continues to call him a player, not a summon. Is this system hiding something from us? He then continues watching his dashboard and notices that all of his stats have increased drastically. Among them, the attack went to 352. After he managed to evolve, he didn't expect the evolution to be as superior as this one. And look, along with evolution also came a passive skill, the quick sword technique. This passive ability makes him 20% faster in attack speed, and there's also a 20% bonus that makes up for his weakness as a skeleton in strength. Even though he is a very weak skeleton, he can compensate for this lack of strength by hitting more consecutive times, faster and faster. He then tests it and notices that the sword is getting lighter and lighter. Even though he doesn't have any abilities, he will actually be able to get stronger. He just has to keep fighting. If the other players discover all of his abilities there, people will consider him a monster, and he will attract a lot of looks, so everyone will run after him. He'd better stay on the piano. But at one time or another, a very serious problem will appear, and it has to get stronger as quickly as possible. That now, he has no choice but the strongest summoned creature in the entire world of that game. Unlike the top guild players, he is alone, and you don't have any absolute strength to face 100 enemies and survive. He needs to become stronger than several guilds combined. In other words, he has to be considered a type of final boss as soon as possible. He has to get new evolution points. He then continues to kill several wolves there, but the wolves are not giving him that much money or giving him that many points to evolve. So maybe he has to go somewhere else on the map, while the system keeps notifying him that he has to actually get more evolution points as quickly as possible, that he too must discover something. He continues to think about his relationship between master and summoning, because after all, he was reborn as a summoned creature. And where is the summoner? He then notices that girl who is still collecting all the wolves' items. She already has wolf skin, wolf bones, wolf meat. Everything there is worth a lot of money. She will take everything. You know that those items farmed in the game can be exchanged for real money, and the exchange rate is basically unbelievable. The game has just started, and she is already getting rich. She looks at his skeleton, and apparently it looks a little different. While he sees that she is actually a newbie and has never played this game, she observes the skeleton's sword, which has apparently also changed shape. So it means that everything there has gone up a level. She sees that he can fight monsters, change color. It's actually a summoned creature. She then hugs the little skeleton and says that he will be the winning ticket for her Megacina. She will really change her life from then on, while saying that they will become rich overnight. He then tries to talk to her, but he doesn't have any vocal cords, so he decides to mime. He said no, and he wants to go somewhere else. She already understands that he wants to go somewhere else to kill more monsters, but she doesn't want to go there because she's too scared. And if he stays there, they'll be able to make a little more money by cleaning up that whole place very easily, and she doesn't want to leave. There is a spawn time for monsters in that location. The time is about 30 minutes. And also, there are only 2 hours and 35 left before an elite zombie appears. It's like a boss. The skeleton already thinks that soon he will find new players there, and maybe they will start a PvP. 1 or 2 players might be possible for him to defeat. Now 3? Maybe the situation will get very critical there. While she doesn't understand why the little skeleton wants to go to another location, in that game there is no punishment for PvP or PK, and also people who kill other players can take their equipment and also monsters. And if the other players kill this fool, maybe he'll go base. So he decides to grab grab her and force her to go do what is right. As she screams for him to let go of her, he continues walking, and she says that this shameless skeleton is not following her orders, and she is the master. She doesn't want to leave. After all, there is still a lot to get from the dead wolves. She keeps shouting, saying that it's all money there. While the skeleton is walking, he continues thinking that, as an incarnate, he has no strength and can use all the knowledge obtained in his previous life as an advantage to gain levels faster and faster in this game. Here's the deal. You know, the first players to kill the secret bosses will win some rare equipment in the game, and he wants some of that equipment. He then arrives at a very promising location, and that's where he will start. And we see a little wolf's mouth tearing several players apart there. That is an extremely difficult mission, but apparently it will be worth enough. That's the next beginner zone, and there's a secret dungeon there. That bear keeps tearing apart several players there. That's the mountain bear. He then observes the status of that player who accompanies him, and she is a necromancer. Her real name is Zhang Meng. It has 500 health, 520 mana, attack 90, magic power 121, defense 60, resistance 55, speed 1, movement speed 1, combat power 66, and can summon 3 undead. Her rating is quite low, but she has already managed to raise some points. The fight continues, and the mountain bear is becoming more and more fierce. The captain has already been sent away from the base. While he is there begging for help, a bear starts to roar. While he thinks he can't die like this, with all his equipment and loot exposed, he has a bleeding debuff, and suddenly he realizes that someone came to save him, but suddenly he looks back and sees that it's not his comrade. While begging for help, he realizes that it is a skeleton, but he doesn't understand what is happening and thinks it is a ghost. While the Protagonist is very angry with him, telling the skeleton to put him down, the bleeding debuff intensifies and the player dies, leaving all their loot down. His HP reached 0 due to the bleeding debuff, and now the bear turns its eyes to our little cub and his master, and he remains tremendously under attack and fierce. That's a level 7 Ferroclaw bear. She goes on to say that it wasn't a lack of warning. She warned that that place was dangerous and she didn't want to go there, but the skeleton didn't give it a chance and continued heading towards that place. Level 5 players barely notice this, and she quickly tells them to run away, that she is not willing to lose everything they collected there before. But the troublemaker already says that all the players who were in that area were all base players, so no one will get in his way. He thought he would need to kill some players before entering that secret dungeon, but apparently that won't be necessary. They brought the bear out. It won't be very easy to farm outside now, but you also don't need to fulfill the prerequisite to attract boss. Then they immediately throw her to the ground without any delicacy, while she thinks that skeleton is wanting to rebel, and she is its master. They are now surrounded, but the little creature shows no hint of fear. Now that all the monsters are there, it's the perfect situation to annihilate them all, but his master is very scared and tells the skeleton again to run away from that place. She then notices the bear heading towards them, while the system notifies him that he has attracted the attention of the fierce claw bear. He won't just stand there, he heads towards the bear too, while she thinks why this little street skeleton doesn't listen to his master's orders. As she watches, the skeleton continues to advance towards the bears, attracting more and more. He thinks about attracting all the bears there, and that master of his will be very safe if he does that. That way, he won't have to worry about her. He continues running, attracting everyone, and with his techniques from his past life, he will be able to base all the bears very quickly. The bears try to hit him, but he dodges. As the bears begin to get more and more attacked, they attack in sequence. First the paw, then the bite. And since he already knows all this information, he manages to dodge it again. If just 2 attacks from those bears hit him, he'll go to base. After all, he doesn't have much life left yet. He continues to get faster and faster, dodging all attacks. The attacks are very predictable, and he also has a little more speed than the bears. While she thinks that skeleton is extremely impressive, they can't get the skeleton right. A bear then tries to catch him again, and he picks up momentum and jumps right onto the bear's head. A bear begins to growl and advances towards the bear he had on top of his head. He then decides to use one bear to hit the other, completely disorienting them. Since he is a skeleton, his physical ability and agility is slightly better than most players. His movement speed has an evolution of 2. Player's normal speed is 3, and the fierce claw bear may be stronger. He is very slow. He has the advantage in speed, and the weak point of the swift claw bear is nothing more, nothing less, its head and ankles. While the bear attacked the other's head, he ran his sword through his ankle, using his 20% attack speed skill. He will use and abuse every advantage he has, and continues to land more and more blows on the bear. One already fell, with all his joints destroyed, and little by little, he succeeded. Now the bears are limited limping. He only needs to attack the vital points now, as he has reduced their movement speed even further. If he manages to deal critical damage twice in a row, he will be able to kill, but a fierce claw bear is called a rookie killer for a very peculiar reason. When he is almost at the end of his life, he uses the berserker skill and starts to become enraged. That ability produces a lightning bolt right above your head. That electrical discharge is so powerful that it can instantly paralyze players, thus breaking their movement speed and leaving them immobilized. The lightning then goes towards Prota, who already knew this information, but he manages to block that strong lightning. And when players are paralyzed by lightning, they move forward and just finish players off. That's why they have a reputation as beginner killers. The master already said that the little skeleton can't take anything anymore, but you can't see that it's intact. He continues to think that those bears are devoid of intelligence. His race is immune to paralysis. He is undead and has no blood or flesh. He can't be stunned and attacks the monster. He then plunges his sword right into the animal's head, thinking that after the monster uses the lightning skill, it remains immobile for 3 seconds, long enough for it to bash the bear, and the bear falls to the ground. While the master still doesn't believe in the abilities of that skeleton she summoned, even though she is a beginner, he has already memorized all the attack patterns of the wild claw bears many years ago. Now, with the current characteristics of a skeleton body, he can kill them without taking any damage. He then managed to reach 50 evolution points, gaining 30 experience points. Quite challenging rewards. It's very good, right? He then decides to level up to the next evolution right there in that location, and then managed to catch the boss that is hidden right there in that obscure dungeon. He has now managed to level up to level 4, while the deranged girl continues to think that her skeleton is extremely overpowered, and her powers are beyond the understanding of a newcomer. As he continues to base the bears, attacking vital points, these are not the movements of just a summoned skeleton. They are the movements of the legendary player, guest of the game's testing phase, Jiang Chong. She also realizes that the movements of that skeleton are very identical. She then stops and thinks, did the developers of this game create this wild desert just as an Easter egg in the game just for Jiang Chong? While the skeleton doesn't understand what she's thinking, she appears very blushing. She continues to gain experience without doing anything at all. Summoning him was the most incredible thing she ever did in that game. She watches her system, which manages to notify her more and more that the floor is full of collectible materials. That means it's free gold for her. She continues to think she is extremely lucky. She managed to get an extremely powerful summon and can still summon 2 more. He will use it in the best way possible, thus becoming richer and richer. While he continues killing the animals, she continues telling him to look. After all, her life continues to depend on him, and soon she will be swimming in money. Now he already has a total of 420 points, almost reaching 1,000 for the next evolution. There are more bearers waiting for him there. His evolution points are rising faster and faster, and now an evolution route has been unlocked. He was not warned about a path of evolution. Here's the deal. The system keeps notifying him that, due to the host's excellent performance, the hidden evolution route has been opened. He can choose between 3. He needs 2,000 evolution points, which is unknown, or else he can choose between a skeleton assassin, which is only 1,000 points, or a berserker skeleton, which is also 1,000 points. This means that there are other routes that he can choose to evolve. The one that needs 2,000 points is unknown, but it needs twice as many points compared to the normal route. Even if it takes longer, perhaps it means that the returns are comparable to the effort, right? It will probably be a very good evolution to obtain. Even though it may take a long time, there is no other way to reach the final boss of that location. He has to defeat all the monsters there whether he wants to or not. So he decides to choose the hidden route and is increasingly determined. The more secret it is, the better. The bears over there are having a hard time with him. Fine. I don't really want to go after him anymore. He's exuding a very threatening aura now. In Ferocious Bear Mountain, he continues to base more and more bears, now gaining a lot of experience. He notes in his system that he has already achieved a total of 1980 points out of 2,000. Now, that's the last bear. As his level increases, the number of evolution points he receives drops drastically. He now only needs 20 points to reach the next level of evolution, but the time that fierce bears can respawn is 1 hour and 20, and during that time, there won't be any low-level bears in that region there. After all, he already sent everyone from base. Even if he didn't get all the points he needed to evolve, he's still very good. He managed to obtain quite a lot of fierce bear crystals, and also several level 5 claws. And now, the boss has respawned in that region. He then decides to check this boss. Only low-level players, up to level 10, who manage to kill all the bears in less than 45 minutes, can have the chance to face the boss in that region. These are very specific, well-hidden rules. This is an extremely dangerous boss level for any player who even knew that boss existed. He then found the boss. This is the ruler of Ferocious Bear Mountain. That bear is much bigger than the others and is at an extremely higher level, at level 15, the Mountain Emperor Bear, the secret boss. Its size is 3 times larger than the size of smaller bears. He's a low-level boss, but he's still a boss. Even if one of the players can see him, he still cannot detect the player. This boss can only detect the player from the moment he enters its detection radius. Then, yes, he will be attracted. He thinks about whether he should test this animal, yes or no. He remembers that this boss has an ability that is incredibly effective for beginner players, and if he only relies on past experience, he won't have any chance of killing this monster. He tries to remember more and more what that monster's ability was. In the test version of that game, he was chased several times by that bear with fierce claws. The first time, he was persecuted in a very humiliating way, but the other times, he can't remember how he got past that phase. And there are also a lot of bosses at the beginning of the game, and he can't even remember any of them at this point. He then decides to kill this boss after it completes its next evolution. And now there is about 1 hour and 20 minutes left for all the bears in that region to respawn again. He then decides to wait for the new wave of bears, but he has a very strong feeling inside his body, attracting him to another region. He then realizes that there is a very strong connection between him and her, and that is a connection between a summoned creature and its summoner. Ever since he was reincarnated, he feels like there is something connecting him to her. So he decides to find her again. He also sees that he can feel what she is doing, even without seeing it. So she is there. She continues fighting the bodies of the fallen monsters. But then he realizes that there are several players there, and they are saying that someone killed those animals, or it must be a bug, because there are no monsters in that region. But the other one already says that someone clearly killed that animal. Look at all the dead monsters there. One guy then gets a lot of trouble. After all, that territory is the territory of the Tiger Hunters Guild, and no one is supposed to be hunting monsters there. And then they try to find who the culprit is, and one of them says that maybe it's the Fighters Guild. Apparently, the vice leader of that guild is personally fighting in that territory, but that's what the master said. And if someone met one of them, and right before he finishes his speech, a guy already grabs the collar of his shirt and tells him not to say anything to the boss, otherwise he'll go base. One guy then tells everyone to search and carry out patrols wherever they find more bodies. The person is probably nearby, and if they don't find anyone, they'll have to report everything to the guild master, and they'll be completely ripped off. They then decide to find whoever did this immediately. While the little creature was watching everything on the lookout, a guy then goes on his hunt in search of whoever killed those monsters there, grumbling and complaining a lot that guy only knows how to give orders. And if there are still ferocious bears there, he will definitely die. While listening to someone saying that they are rich, very rich, she found an amethyst rank material, and he just says that he found whoever sent the bear's base there and asks where it came from. The guy keeps yelling why she invaded their guild territory, while she realizes that there are 3 more people back there, but she just says that she went in there hunting for the invocation that she had summoned before. He ran away and she's looking for him, but the guy already thinks it's all suspicious. A summon that ran away from its master? Ah, that girl is lying, that's for sure. She asks, where is it? Where is her gang? But does she not understand band? What bunch? She doesn't have any gang, and she was just there looking for her summons. A guy then tells her to take her along and not let her run away, or kill herself to try to log out of the game, and also tells her to ask where her partners are. But she then starts to pull out her gun. The archer soon uses the detection and investigation skill, and says that the girl is not lying in a suit. This girl is a level 9 necromancer. She is a necromancer with very low attack speed, damage, HP, all. It must not be her who killed all these monsters, and the cuts on the monsters are extremely precise, made by someone who has such remarkable skill and experience. After all the cuts were made in the monster's weakest regions. And he also discovered using his system that she is not in any guild. She is completely alone. While she's there thinking that she's not going to give them all the loot she ever managed to gather, he continues saying that the person who cleared that entire dungeon could never be her. She is probably just a hunter who entered there and is collecting the loot left behind. These hunters, who leave loot left by other hunters, are low-level people who manage to get loot left by other teams. They are basically money thieves or something like that. And in this case, the boss there decides to leave her completely up to him. And the guy then thanks him and the 3 leave while he goes towards the woman. He then tries to hug her while she thinks he is pretty fast, while he tells her not to move, otherwise he will send her to base. He then tells her that the most realistic part of the game is wilderness. But before he can finish his sentence, the skeleton is there very close to the guy, while she just has her eyes closed. He notices the presence of another being, while the leader there also looks back and sees a skeleton soldier. While she cries and thanks the skeleton for finally returning, some guys are in disbelief that a skeleton soldier managed to defeat the shadow bird extremely quickly and without suffering any damage. A guy starts screaming that his hand was ripped off before he could touch the girl. While our little protege grabs the woman and starts running, the chief there then deduces that the wounds on those bears were caused by that invocation location. This means that the one who killed the bears was that skeleton and that woman who controls him. They were completely deceived. If they manage to escape, they won't be able to tell the master what happened. Then they begin to follow them into the forest. This is the Tiger Hunters Guild. This guild is a beginner's guild founded by the Xinguang Company. These guys are some pretty cruel guys who managed to take over that ferocious bear mountain and also some dungeons in the valley's territory. In the first week of the game's release, they were already dominating that area. That one over there is the Hyena, level 12. He is a berserker in charge of the law enforcement team. And there is also the Shadowbird, also level 12, who is an archer. And there is also the level 10 Rhino, a squire knight, who is also in charge of enforcing all the laws of that guild. There is also the level 9 Generous Camel. This guy is a fighter, but he doesn't have any specialization. You're very happy because the little skeleton came back at the perfect time. Captain Hyena is very fast. He's about to catch up to both of them. While she wants to get off the skeleton's shoulders, she believes she can help a lot in this fight. No matter how much it bothers her, the little skeleton doesn't show any sign of reducing its speed. So she deduces that he is simply very attached to her. After all, he doesn't want to let go of her, no matter what. Maybe he wants her not to get hurt. That is her thought, but immediately she is thrown into the bush there. She can't believe he just did that. But in the following moments, she observes that that was the best thing that happened to her. After that moment, the entire guild that was chasing them was focused on the skeleton, making it very difficult to observe it amidst all the foliage. Then she managed to notice that the little skeleton was helping, diverting the other players, while Jean continued running. He knew he had no choice but to stop. The guild that was chasing him has good melee combat and good suppression, and also has a long range and also very effective reconnaissance. They have a full set of skills for killing, looting, and stalking, but thankfully he managed to render the archer incapable in combat. That guy's mental toughness seems surprisingly weak. If so, now would be the perfect time to turn the tables and face the pursuers head on. Then the guild realizes that the woman was missing. Hyena attributes all of this to the necromancer's supposed total control over her summoned creature. He realizes that Xian eliminated all the monsters there with pure skill, but something isn't right. Behind the lone skeleton soldier, the forest exudes a very strange vibe. Hyena wants to be very cautious and orders Shadow to examine everything around there using detection skills. But that archer doesn't care about his orders. This loser was very enraged by the fact that the summoned creature had hurt and ripped off his hand. He then takes out his poisoned throwing weapons and vows to kill that arrogant skeleton. Jean, on the other hand, raises his blade and prepares for what is about to come. The Shadow then throws all the poison throwing knives and the skeleton quickly neutralizes them with simple sword strikes. Hyena is quite irritated by the premature action, but has no choice but to move on. They can use all the power and overcome the lone skeleton with numbers, attacking at the same time. They just need to neutralize this summoned creature and then find that woman. A hyena hammer attack hits the ground, narrowly missing the slippery skeleton. This speed is unheard of for low-level skeleton soldiers, summoned by a necromancer. And look, beginner. As the entire guild tries to revert against Yang, they all receive the same warning message. All four were branded by the hidden dungeon boss. Without wasting any more time, a bear mountain boss jumps out of the forest, falls like a fierce meteor. It was the same monster that the deputy leader of the Tiger Slayer Guild was looking for. Hyena thinks quickly and orders his men to spread out as an area of effect attack is about to land. Almost all of them narrowly survive the beast's initial attack. Almost everyone, as the depraved archer, Shadows, dies under the weight of the hidden boss. With this unwanted fight, Hyena believes that the necromancer is probably targeting the bear mountain boss. The giant bear growls with primal intensity, activating his fury. Captain Hyena, then, is the first to run to save his own skin, and after this activation, leaving the Iron Rhino to defend itself. But before he can get very far, the cowardly guild begins to dissolve into thin air. This is due to the gravity magic derivation boss ability, Tornado Force Field. It is practically impossible to free yourself from this ability. Jean continues to observe everything from afar, and finally remembers the hidden boss's arsenal of problematic skills. When it comes to powerful skills like this, the duration shouldn't be too long. Jiang Chong wants to see how long the guild can hold out, but Hyena begins to approach the beast, and all he feels is resentment towards the hateful necromancer. He can see the summoned creature is still on standby, which means the summoner is also nearby. Before getting too close to the hidden boss, Hyena is freed from the gravitational pull. This must be their chance to save their own lives and retreat. At least they managed to survive this ordeal. They will need to report the hidden boss incident to the guild leader. What they find strange is that the skeleton soldier had disappeared into the bush. He felt sharp killing intent coming from the side, but it was too late. Both Captain Hyena, the berserker, and Rogue, a brawler, are sent from base in a single, very elegant attack. 2 players died at the hands of a mere low-level summoned creature. Look, at that. Until her last breath, Hyena couldn't stop thinking about she and the appearance of that dungeon's hidden boss. He knew he needed to warn the guild leader at any cost, but Jiang Chong killed the Lord of Bear Mountain's prey. Then all his eyes were transferred to our little skeleton. Killing the players earned him the 20 points he needed to complete his evolution, prompting the system to confirm the start of his new evolution, while the dungeon boss was about to chew on his brittle bones. Jiang Chong clicks yes, and his evolution begins, activating about 3 seconds before he becomes untouchable. The entire ground shakes and breaks under pressure from Jean's evolution and the giant bear's attack. His bony hand grips the attacking boss's prey, and Jiang Chong is now dressed in tattered armor, making him even more menacing. He unlocked the hidden path and officially became a skeleton assault guard. With this, he gained the skill of bone armor, arrow-shaped bone armor. This is how the protection of evolution breathes. As soon as evolution's protection expires, blood stains the battlefield, and his fast swordsman skill also evolved and had a considerable increase in attack by 40%. He then remembers all the skills of the big bear in front of him. He is sure that the boss's weak points are his joints and neck. Jean then confidently provokes the monster into having the giant bear attack him to test his new power, which was affected unlike normal, ferocious claw bears. The giant bear is incredibly fast, even with Jean Chang's evolution. Keeping up with that monster is a pretty bad fight, but luckily, it had an arrow shape ability. This new skill gave him the ability to fight from a distance by generating bone arrows. The arrows he shot went right into the bear's eyes, and now his vision was completely limited. The bear then missed the fatal blow, and the now skeleton assault guard, Jiang Chong, was using the gravity of the storm's force field to his advantage. With the increase in momentum came the increase in attack power. He then used his blade to lacerate the monster's stomach. The cut was deep and massive, covering his entire body, but it was simply too tough. He still had plenty of HP left to activate another gravitational storm field, but this time, all the surrounding trees were uprooted and sucked into the gravitational vacuum. The increase in strength of the storm field indicates that the boss was getting desperate in his attacks with our skeleton's consecutive attacks. It was a shame that Jean didn't have enough bone arrows to be able to base this monster. He then entered the field and let himself be sucked in on purpose. Ah, you got me, monster. The boss was still having a lot of trouble with those bleeding eyes, while Jean let himself be sucked in by gravity. He then prepared for combat, getting closer and closer, and his next attack, now with the blade. The blind monster was unable to sense the enemy, who was already very close. Then Jiang Chong already used his remaining bone arrows and fired a rain of arrows and thorns at a dead spot, and the arrows lodged in the bear's eyes again. At this point, the boss was basically a sitting duck. Jean, Zhang's swordsmanship left the boss with no choice, and he hit himself in the face, and soon after, the skeleton disappeared. The gravitational field also disappeared, and the duration must have run out. The indomitable leader of the Bear Mountain was now a small fish, a big dish for our skeleton. Jiang Chong soon becomes quite pleased with the usefulness of his new skill. Fortunately, it takes a lot of bones to generate arrows. As he takes his time before the fight ends, a sinister voice starts talking to Jean, telling him that he has been waiting a long time. The voice wasn't supposed to come from the boss bear, as the game's settings didn't make it very clear that these beasts wouldn't interact players in this way. The mysterious voice wanted to give him one last gift, courtesy of the dungeon's hidden boss, the release of his ultimate skill, 1,000 Fierce Thunders. The developers added quite a lot of quirky things to the game, huh? He thinks this type of update is a very bad update, but as he was already there, he decided to play along. The 1,000 Thunders hit his body, and his immunity to electricity kicked in. The lightning striking the ground was a spectacle that could be seen throughout the mountain. Xian saw this and became very worried about her little skeleton. She went to the battlefield, but she was carrying a lot of loot in her storage, which greatly reduced her movement speed, about 40% to be exact. Worried about her precious summoned creature, she even sacrificed some of her precious treasures, equipment, and even her staff. She decided to save her little skeleton with her somewhat limited capabilities, but she decided to stop on her way when she saw something very large and round coming from the sky. It was the Lord of Bear Mountain. Somehow, he was launched into the air. She just wanted to help, but she was about to be crushed instead. As soon as the dungeon's hidden boss hit the ground, Jiang Chong received the first kill notification from the Bear Mountain's hidden boss. The experience he gained raised him to level 10. He could now go to the central city to change professions. News of what happened in the wild Bear Mountain quickly traveled to the Tiger Slayer Guild headquarters. Some idiots were begging Chief Chong to listen to them, but the video recording of what happened was explanation enough. Captain Hyena and his guild lost bear territory to a guild and let a newbie get the first kill of a hidden boss. Chong would lose a lot of money with this debauchery. Hyena and his cronies were forced to act as human scammers out of fear of their boss. A dungeon boss then orders everyone everyone to capture and kill that annoying necromancer, to set an example for other players. Then Chong took one of his golf clubs from his bag. As they begged for another chance, he only said that it was unforgivable that the entire guild, flying the flag of the Tiger Slayer Guild, lost to a solo player who hadn't even reached level 10. The boss had no use for useless guild members, and went on to say that his golf swing was equally elegant and bloody, shutting up Hyena indefinitely. Chong does not tolerate weakness in his group. He still felt incredibly bitter about missing the chance to kill the hidden boss. But fortunately, this farce didn't happen in his valley territory. They couldn't afford for any problems to arise in the place. A man named Viper assured Chang the guildmaster that there would be no more problems in the future. Wild Bear Mountain was no longer a priority location. They could sign reliable players to teach the rookie a lesson. As for the valley territory, he wanted more reinforcements for good measure. Viper then smiled very confidently and assured the boss that everything was under control. Back in the Shi Mountains, he summoned a few more normal skeleton soldiers to help her collect some more loot. She criticized those skeletons endlessly, comparing the skeletons there to her exceptional skeleton little brother, which was quite unfair, right? Since this guy could easily defeat a Bear Mountain boss there alone. She was then blessed with a complete new ferocious bear set, including a cloak that increases defenses and mana, as well as a tail, which increases movement speed and offensive powers. She also got boots that do the same. Most importantly, the entire outfit was quite stylish and well fitted in all the right places, and the player name of Shan is just cute. She is well aware of this. Anyway, she was equipped with that really thick armor. Jiang Chong just looked at his summoner in disbelief. Now, after collecting all those items, she had gained so much loot and money beyond his wildest dreams. Now that she was level 10, she could finally choose a specialization. They could go to the main city and take care of it, as well as sell the monster materials stock. As sweet as she was to Jiang Chong, she was equally cruel to the other summoned skeletons, who were just trying to do their best. Jiang Chong sat back for a moment and lamented the transformation of the set of magical equipment that was turned into 10,000 coins that was treated as a fashion statement. He couldn't wait to finally get rid of it. He then continued looking at his status windows and was quite pleased with the huge increase in his attributes. It was practically superior to any level 15 player, and there was also the addition of bone arrows. After the fight, he managed to replace 46 out of thorns. It's a shame that these thorns have limits, isn't it? Because they are quite oppressive, but considering their damage utility, they are worth the evolution points. This hidden path he chose requires roughly 20,000 evolution points to achieve even more. And now, with his gain rate of about 10 to 20 points per creature killed, it's going to take forever for him to reach another evolution point. This means he now has to focus his forces on killing bosses. Surely this is the way, but from now on, fight will become increasingly difficult, so she should also get stronger. After all, it can truly strengthen creatures. As she gains more power, she will be able to increase the damage of all creatures by 30%. Since it is linked to Shi, it also makes him stronger in return. While she was searching the corpse of another hidden boss, she found a treasure chest. It was a purple chest for defeating the hidden boss. She was unable to hide his emotion. Jean, just because that was another loot, which could contain strengthening materials or some weapons. When the clumsy necromancer opened the box, her eyes sparkled with surprise. Inside the box was a rare skill book, open for all classes to learn, and it's also an area of effect skill for the big bears, Thunder. A skill book for Thunder. Low-level bosses typically don't drop as good loot. Perhaps the first kill feat increased the quality of the chest, not to mention that she already noticed that his little skeleton was very interested in the skill book. All of your recent success and wealth should come exclusively from that little skeleton, so she knew he wanted this, and handed the skill book to Jean without hesitation. He was beaming with joy, and perhaps his summoner is not as greedy as he thought and focused on money as he thought. Initially, Shan read that Thunder is a skill that can kill multiple monsters at once. She happily handed him over so that he could cultivate more efficient monsters, so that she could obtain more efficient monsters at a much faster speed. She knew that the profitable potential of such a skill in the hands of a capable summon was extremely high. Jiang Chong was quite disgusted. He took out the skill book, and the system asked for confirmation to learn Thunder, and then an electrical spell that requires 15 mana per use. With a cooldown of Edian Wudian, she was quite happy, encouraging him to immediately test his new skill. It had been a long time since Jean felt a thrill when obtaining a new skill. He used his blade as a conductor, as he electrified and crackled all the steel. It was time to test how powerful the thunder was. He then swung his sword downwards, and the thin strands of lightning went crazy. That skill was incredible and really cool, and without a doubt it would help a lot to move the monsters and send them from base very quickly. But Jean was not satisfied with its weak, destructive destructive power. Even though it is a daily effect skill, the damage it causes is very little. He remembered that evolution points could be used to evolve not only himself, but also his abilities. It is important to accumulate these points for the next evolution, but it is also essential to increase your monster killing rate. He then used all of his remaining evolution points to level up Thunder. As the strengthening began, his bony body was enveloped in an electrifying mist. She was almost caught by the pressure. When Jean emerged, he had an even more menacing aura, with electricity dancing across his blades and turning black. He wasted no time and activated the new and improved Thunder. Now, on the 5th level, that power, now at level 5, was so great that it devastated a huge area there, destroying several trees and leaving the place quite smoky, as if it were an explosion of lightning. While our necromancer says that was all she wanted. After all, now she will get a lot of evolution points and be able to evolve very quickly. She then moves towards the little skeleton, very blushing, and starts hugging it, saying that now she just needs to be carried, but he just wants to get more evolution points first, and then they will now be able to make this girl the next level. Now they have to go towards the main city, where that girl will turn pro. On the walk, they would take a stroll through the valley and clean up everything they found. The great desolation was raging. The artificial intelligence that controlled the system was evolving and making predictions. Lots of storyline missions mixed together. People don't even know what to expect. These missions lead to dungeons full of envious loot, but some of these dungeons become hidden dungeons, and people just have to find the right conditions to get their hands on that loot. The loot from these hidden dungeons is so huge that it's better not to compare it to normal dungeons. For this reason, several very strong guilds were occupying the best locations to try to uncover the secrets of those hidden dungeons. One such place is Wild Bear Mountain, run by the Tiger Slayer. It's part of their territory. Another land of theirs is the Valley, and they soon decide to take a look there. After that, a fully armored player in his group was sending some trash monsters from base while they explored the area. The people in the valley were still crying for their boss. Vice President, couldn't activate the hidden boss event in that mountain dungeon, so no one had the chance to take advantage of the opportunity. And soon after they shifted focus to other territories, the night crew didn't really understand why they had to search this so-called valley when they were supposed to find the culprit in Bear Mountain. But then a red knight began to explain that a hidden boss never appears. Bear Mountain has completely lost its value, and the valley is now very different. That hidden dungeon in this place hasn't been cleared yet. There is a great place for them to fix that pair, who took a quick hit on the boss and get a nice reward. As far as that guild knows, the necromancer just reached level 10. So that means she goes to the main city to choose some kind of specialization, and the valley is the safest and most discreet way to get there. All the knights there started praising that red knight. He is very smart, and the planning is perfect, but their information suggests that the necromancer is a very dangerous psychopath who weighs more than 200 kilograms, and her level, even if it is very low, she is still capable of making fun of her victims. The red knight hates those who like toying with their victims more than anything, so he came well prepared. The necromancer uses magic, doesn't she? But the summoned skeleton deals physical damage. These three are proud of their heavy armor that perfectly resists physical attacks. As a knight, they also have the divine stat to pressure the summoner and summon, and after feeling completely safe by the red knight, the other two are excited to make some good money. But then a mysterious dark power reached their position, coming from small electrical crackles. Thunder fell on them as if it were a divine punishment, and the knights soon grouped together, with no idea where that area attack could have come from. They didn't know anything, but this spell came from a player, perhaps a rather powerful wizard, and the melee ones 1 and 2, who were suffering severe damage, while the white thunderlight hit them critical magic damage. Their armor was excellent against physical damage, but magical resistance was practically non-existent. Then the Red Knight felt that his life was dwindling, and he soon ordered everyone to retreat, but it was already too late. The angry elephant and his boys had already died in the first attack. She was up there on Jean's shoulder, ordering his number 2 and 3 skeletons to loot all the monsters properly, while she was swallowing mana potions looted from Hyena and the gang, acting like a very greedy boss, ordering her employees. And suddenly she saw that during the cleaning operation, her monsters killed some players. Poor things. They died accidentally. These players hiding in the bushes were clearly killed by the thunder, a powerful area of effect attack. The bodies had tiger hunting guild emblems on. Based on their equipment, they should be paladins. Jiang Chong deduced that these guys were waiting to ambush them. He knew that the valley was also under the guild's jurisdiction. Passing through this territory will require a little more information. Soon, she saw another person moving the leaves there and immediately called the little skeleton. The Red Knight survived, but was completely paralyzed. He was starting to regret that ambush plan, as the move had been completely compromised. It looked like he was going to try to call for reinforcements. An electrifying sword stabbed into his palm before he could do so. Jiang Chong crushed the Red Knight's hand beneath the tip of his blade. Now, collecting information will be extremely easy. And to have a little more security, Jean took off the Red Knight's heavy armor and prepared a rope to tie him. But soon, Jean watched in shock as the figure behind the armor's helmet was revealed. And look, the Red Knight was actually a woman with red hair. Now, she thought that this necromancer was really quite perverted, but soon she told the skeleton not to be perverted. Why did he take her armor? But Jean didn't understand anything either. After all, he continued trying to justify himself by making some very clumsy gestures. He explained that Redhead was one of his teammates, along with the dead players they accidentally killed. Then he undressed her and tied her up to prevent her from leaving the game. Redhead then looked at She speaking to her summon and thought that the necromancer must have had a few screws loose in her head. She didn't want to be tortured by someone like her. She then got a little closer to Redhead and apologized for the accident, but she had a few questions to be answered before leaving Redhead. The Redhead then started screaming, calling She a pervert for doing such humiliation to her. She swore that she would do anything to die instead of simply handing over information. She wasn't prepared for this kind of thing, right? But soon the little skeleton took action. He had a plan B to extract more information from Redhead, but she remained firm. Then, the little skeleton then took something big, juicy, and heavy from the bone waste. Redhead closed her mouth and blushed. Yeah, man. The little skeleton took out a bag full of money, around 5,050 silver coins, and shook it in front of the Red Knight, still naked. So, that means it was a lie, right? A silence took over the place, while the little skeleton was very sure that this tactic would work. But soon She became very worried about Little Red, because imagine if she simply left the game and couldn't be interested in the bag full of money. But then she screamed for the necromancer to wait a little longer. This Little Red was the type of person who would tell anyone anything they wanted to hear if they had enough money to pay. And detail, 50 silver coins are worth around $4,000 in conversion. It's a lot of money. The necromancer then began to translate everything the little skeleton said to Red, and they needed to know about the Tiger Hunter Guild. The cute necromancer was the perfect girl for the job, because she knew how to somehow translate all of that little skeleton's strange gestures. However, she couldn't just ignore Redhead's accusations that she was a pervert. It was a long day for that She and the poor skeleton. Now they had to deal with the money-hungry Redhead, who became communicative out of nowhere after promises of wealth, right? She wasn't very pleased with that red-haired Miss Knight. Miss Knight didn't expect the necromancer to be so rich, did she? Our necromancer then assured the red-haired knight that she was not a pervert, so everything started to flow very well, even if she was acting the opposite, right? But soon our little skeleton interrupted the conversation there, because he was still quite suspicious. Even though she was without her equipment, that team was still planning to send them from base to ambush, but Redhead made it very clear that she had no grudge against the necromancer. After all, she was only doing that job to earn a little more money. Even though their team suffered some losses, everything is good. That little bag of money with 50 silver coins will solve everything. She sent a notification to the guild, telling a lot of lies about the confrontation that happened there just now. After all, she also didn't want to miss the opportunity to earn a lot of money with this rich girl. She started hugging and grooming She to get started. She didn't want to let that rich girl go without enjoying it. Redhead continued saying that she didn't have to worry about anything or reinforcements, because that ambush was completely autonomous and free from orders from the guild. They did it alone. The other players were hunting them in Bear Mountain, and they are very low level, so they will probably end up dying there. But even if everything is resolved, they cannot let their guard down in that base, otherwise they may go base. That valley territory is not so easy to cross. This location has always been heavily guarded by the guild, but players are being sent to help with the guild's plans with each passing day, and Red heard what happened recently in the Heart of Vale territory. Even players assigned to patrol the borders, like her and her boys, are being assigned to patrol around the Heartland. Almost all players above level 15 were taken to help protect the inside of the place. No one can pass by without people knowing. The guild's strongest player, Vice President Viper, is also stationed in the heart of the valley. He is a level 30 player who has already passed the second. The guy is literally Superman. Even She and his little skeleton wouldn't be able to beat this guy. Furthermore, the guild has already issued several warnings against an unspecialized female necromancer who plays alone with a skeleton. So if anyone sees She walking around, it will be like a walking piece of meat walking among rabid, hungry dogs. Everyone will want to send them as a bait. And if they really want to get to the main city to get her specialization, they'll need to take a slightly safer route across the valley. The little skeleton didn't like what he just heard. Things are getting more and more complicated. It's not the same way he initially thought. If the valley is like this, the strange changes in the dungeons must be the result of an NPC quest within the territory. Unlike the Wild Bear Mountain, the valley has its own complete game system and also has regular dungeons. Players who want to enter the hidden dungeons can only wait for a hidden quest related to the location, but that algorithm, the Great Desolation, is making a lot of changes changes, and is increasingly making new upgrades. Participating in some random missions without understanding what they mean can lead to very high losses. Still, our little skeleton can't just give up a chance like this. Here's the deal. Based on the number of Tiger Slayer guild members called to the valley, the mission should be a top priority. They have to figure out what the mission is before making their next move. Looking at the empty, heavy armor on the floor, he has a beautiful idea. When he shared it with the women, they were less than pleased, and asked if Redhead could take them to the heart of the valley. The little skeleton also wanted to wear that heavy armor so he could disguise himself and no one would recognize him. Miss Ruavinya didn't like this plan at all and refused the request. She wants to make some money, but she also doesn't want to be kicked out of the guild. After all, she has no specialization. And if someone sends her out of the guild, she won't have any future. So our necromancer offered a few more silver coins in exchange, which was a bit insulting to the knight. After all, just one silver coin? No chance. This necromancer is pretty handsy, huh? Bread lasts. Even though she had a lot of money from all the hunting they did, she doesn't want to pay any more. So the little skeleton was then forced to act and showed a single gold coin, which really changed Redhead's tone of speech. But in return, she would only take them as far as the guild assigned her. Then they would have to walk the rest alone. She then said that that place is quite dangerous and the valley guards it, and they shouldn't go to the pot too thirsty. Players are not the only dangers along the way, and there are many dangerous monsters there too. So our little skeleton took the armor and put it on as a disguise, and soon the necromancer hid all her player information, and the women soon formed a new group. Ruiva's player's name was Flor Anaconda. She was a level 17 paladin. As they walked into the heart of the valley, Miss Anaconda insisted on a 3-to-7 split on materials and other loot. She would take the vanguard position to protect the group while clearing the way. The monsters in the outer area are not of high level, but the quantity makes them quite a significant problem. But our necromancer is quite confident that the beasts that are there would not be a big problem. The first group of monsters they encountered tasted the bitter taste of our little skeleton's thunder. He eliminated several monsters at once, yielding around 220 evolution points, and Miss Anaconda was shocked by such skill that little skeleton has. She keeps thinking that that necromancer could never summon that skeleton, and even summon more skeletons to be able to loot there. So our necromancer has already called that redhead skeleton number 4 the group's portable inventory. Unfortunately, the anaconda flower didn't have to do anything, right? She then continued going out, looting the bodies, because after all, she was being paid well and was going to take part of the money and also part of the experience points. While she was looting, she told the necromancer about the elite monsters that were roaming the valley. If they continued walking straight, they would inevitably encounter a level 15 elite monster, the demonic stone golem, and against such a beast, they must fight as a group. So, no one will be able to get past the stone golem, but when they arrived at the place where the stone golem was, it quickly transformed into 400 evolution points under the destructive power of thunder. And soon our necromancer smiled that the monster she was praising wasn't that strong. Little Red was under attack. As she arched her stone body, the anaconda flower warned again that there was still a giant snake that they would have to kill. And guess what? The giant snake was also based on thunder, of course. Like the anterior beast, the dangerous snake also yielded 400 evolution points, and our necromancer continued to brag. She kept saying that Miss Anaconda was also her number 4 skeleton. While that redhead looted her body burned, she warned she, who also had a very close-eyed demonic ghost spider. As soon as she predicted, the demonic ghost spider appeared. Just like all the monsters that came before her, a single thunder was enough to make a fatal blow to that monster. Now Miss trembled at the base. She was beginning to realize that she managed to find a very powerful group of player, but while she was thinking about the death of Bezerra, our necromancer already told her to keep looting and not thinking about the death of Bezerra. And she keeps thinking about her mind that that player was level 10 and shouldn't have so much power, isn't she? And that skeleton must have obtained some kind of bear mountain skill. It was not only an unbeatable skill, but also those monsters and very light maneuvers they did is like that skeleton was moving on their own. While our necromancer is still displayed through his strong skeleton, in Anaconda's flower there was still a lot of determination to grab the necromancer's skirt, even if there was something wrong in his head. While they were busy cleaning the battlefield, a voice echoed. They heard a voice and got closer and closer, looking for help desperately. Anaconda's flower was then alert to hear a player's voice. It was a little boy being persecuted and cursed by an adult man. The guy was swearing furiously that he would kill the boy. After they started looking a little more closely, the boy really had a tiger hunting guild emblem on his chest. He was Anaconda Guild's companion. And our necromancer then asked Miss, why are they recruiting such young players? She only said children randomly play other people's account. And that system, the Great Desolation, basically makes your character a copy of the appearance of real life. The boy then saw Anaconda's flower and started shouting that that shirtless guy was wanting to kill him. That guy had driven crazy and captured all his friends, but capturing was a low-level punishment. With his red eye wide eyes, he swore he would sacrifice all his valuable equipment for one thing. He squeezed his fist along with his glove, closing to an attack. That disturbance began to say that he would do anything to make sure he would kill all members of the tiger hunting guild. The boy kept running with a terrifying face, while that guy gives a huge blow to the floor, throwing a wave of tremendous shock. Our protagonist only takes both of them in their arms, while the two hear a tremendous tinnitus in the ear. Our waifu necromant only fainted with such shock, while the redhead is wondering how an invocation can help her dodge, and also how he can move. After all, his invokia is passed out. But watching that fighter more closely, he specializes in the type of shock, and he also has a very strong body, armor perforation statistics. This guy cautions all her statistics. He then starts to get up, but we see that he is bleeding poison. His health is very low. The boy then begins to tell him to kill that very fast guy. If he can activate his skills again, everyone will die. But our protagonist then continues to realize that this boy, even if it is quite new, is a level 11 stealth hunter and should not have enough damage to almost send a level 18 fighter. But even if that guy is almost dying, he preferred to go after the child and not run away. While the guy is saying that everyone there, but the little redhead is already very grayed, saying that if he doesn't want to talk, she will only send him a base. But the guy is still quite caught and starts to exhale a powerful aura, saying that everyone in that guild likes to abuse his powers and status and do not deserve their words. Then he will kill everyone and starts to activate his power, the blood dance ability. It begins to exhale a very powerful and red aura. Then completely close your fist along with your gloves. The paladin then asks everyone to move away and goes over the guy. She keeps trying his blows, while our boy says she's not that bad, but he then detects that this is a divine paladin. While she says it wouldn't be that easy to defeat her, isn't it? She can then repel that guy back. As he perceives all the difficulty, our Sig Hao is already back. And at the following moments, he is a basic warrant, without being able to have any reaction. The Xiaofeng player has died, and now our protagonist has obtained 150 evolution points. Now the total points he has is 14,950. It remains a little to reach 20,000. The boy then approaches that he is a magical swordsman. He begins to watch the gloves. He says that equipment is his, a blue level equipment, while our protagonist thinks he definitely knows how to steal some. The girl then asks which group he belongs to, but he soon says it's normal for her not to know him. He then starts to run, sending everyone to follow him, while she doesn't know where he wants her to go. He keeps running, and on the way he keeps thanking if they had not there, he probably went from the basis, and all the efforts they had planned, and were running there, going down the drain. The redhead then asks who his boss is, and he says he's the Ghost Bat. That Ghost Bat has recently climbed a position, helping the guildmaster to complete some missions. She asks if he's around or wandering in the valley territory, but that kid starts laughing a lot, saying they were waiting there for many days, while something begins to drip into our protagonist's helmet. He then looks up and sees a player begging to be killed. He no longer wants to play that game again. Players who fall into a trap can't move the status window. That is, it means that they cannot leave that game. It is like an endless torture. They cannot die or leave the game. He then begins to say that they arrived at the scene, while the redhead begins to get quite caught. After all, that kid is planning something. She begins to see several traps scattered there and have several people who fell on her. But all the traps were made by that boy, and there are several people there who have not died yet, saying to let them go, and others begging to be killed, saying that the Tiger Hunters Guild are merciless and deserve nothing. The boy begins to laugh by saying that this hunting field is the field they planned created. The redhead starts to get very worried. That boy is hunting players. He is a legitimate PK. He is bragging about saying that everyone there left supplies behind and also some armor, and he only took it. Also, he didn't kill any of the players. If they die, they will be able to tell other players what is happening there, and every effort of it goes downhill. So for this reason, they couldn't kill anyone. But the redhead starts to get quite angry. They were using children to lower the player's guard and thus kill them. She then asks if the guildmaster knows what he's doing, but before the boy can answer, someone. So he says back that she, Anaconda's flower, why did she take off her helmet? Because he knows she hates everyone to know she's a woman. This is the member of the Ghost Bad team, the Leopard of the Shadows. That leopard realizes that this cover that the necromancer is wearing is quite expensive and asks where they got that cover. But the next moment, our protagonist begins to exhale that threatening aura of him and raises his sword. He soon realizes that this is a magical swordsman and is very terrified, saying that this guild does not want to attack. After all, everyone there belongs to the Guild of Tigers. They are brothers, but that's what he says. But what he thinks is that that magical swordsman is very fast. While saying that Anaconda flower found very interesting members to form a group with her, she only says that now that he knows it is better for him to maintain a distance. She keeps thinking that Rich Cute is really amazing. After all, she remains passed out, but continues to control her invocation, or maybe she's just pretending to be passed out. Then one person appears saying that he really managed to kill that fighter. That is the boy's boss. Do you think the boss is happy with the boy? No. He then slaps the boy's mouth, asking he's very proud, right? He couldn't do anything right so far, and would allow that guy to escape. The boy continues to apologize, and now they should take them back. Paladino Redhead asks him if the guild chief knows what he's doing, but he just says guild leader? No chance. He only listens to orders from his older brother, the Ghost Bat. He asks then if this girl was sent there to assist in the defense of the Valley territory, right? But she then takes the collar of his shirt and gets up. While he can't understand why she's angry, he then tries to catch her, but she releases him quickly, asking why she's angry. They just captured some players. The guy keeps saying that all the teams that have there in the Valley territory will follow his older brother orders, the Ghost Bat. That goes for her too. He just says that this has to do more or less with the dungeon hidden in the Valley territory. If she does not want to be expelled from the Valley, it is better for her to follow them to the depths of the central domain of the Valley territory. They then continue deeper into the forest, and when they get there, she must look for the Ghost Bat. He will find a new mission for their team. Hanrado then starts shouting, saying that they brought visitors. They then begin to observe that there are a lot of people there, and most of them are just children, specialized in looting. This is a type of camp that specializes in hunting players. He then observes that there are several children carrying several bags. A system then issues several notifications that health is very low. It is better to stay alert. In the future, those young people there will probably all become looters, bandits. But the guy then notices that the little redhead is making a very sick face, but he just says that they are just orphans and they need to earn some money, so what they are doing is just charity. That's what he says, right? That Tiger Guild is using children against players, and it looks like that guild is taking advantage of the game's loopholes. After all, it was released not long ago. The kids continue piling the bodies there, but they are not dead, and in addition to the equipment, they also manage to get supplies and ensure that the location does not leak. This camp was probably set up because of the hidden mission, but no one knows what this hidden mission is yet. While the redhead continued screaming and saying that if that guy touches her again, she will send him to base, and they have to keep following them. After all, they don't really know enough information to activate the mission that is hidden. And he continues to observe the redhead, who is very strange, but she immediately said that she is fine, and she remembers the agreement they made. But the redhead soon feels that it is the first time that she is being comforted by an invocation. Look, she then tells that little skeleton that they will meet inside the camp to get their new mission. And already inside the camp, everyone realizes that whoever is there is the anaconda flower, and without the helmet. The people there heard that she was a woman, and look, she's very cute. Some there comment that this woman was able to break the boss's nose, the Ghost Bat himself, but she punched the guy in the face, making him give up immediately. The guys keep saying that if that woman had agreed to join the Ghost Bat's group, she wouldn't be a vassal now. I wonder if she took off her helmet just to see the Ghost Bat, and they start laughing. She blushes a lot, as the guys keep saying that maybe that Ghost Bat wants her for his harem, and keeps saying and talking about her past, that she grew up in an orphanage, and her brother is also a competent. Those guys are really mean, while she continues to hear everything. A little skeleton then manages to realize, which is why she has a vision and cannot tolerate children being exploited by this guild. Someone there calls her and says they have something to tell her. He knows that she came from an orphanage and that she isn't getting along very well with the Ghost Bat, but he's still going to give her some advice. That Ghost Bat is a pretty bad guy, and she should just put the guild's priority first. They are also not very happy with the orphans working there, but it is a rare opportunity to make money, and if she causes any problems for that camp, no one will help her, and she will not be able to get any of those supplies either, but she can have some of that equipment. So, she's supposed to stay cool. She says it's right, and lowers her head. That game is no different from real life. There is a lot of inequality. She then looks at the skeleton and says that from now on, she will be called a milk cow. Did they put that name there? And also, a skeleton over there. It's going to be called an electric monkey. Damn. This woman doesn't really know how to choose names, does she? They then decide to go inside, and inside that cabin, there is a very strange man starting to drool. The guy starts saying that she is supposed to do her job, and then he will find someone to heal all the wounds she has, and also give her good equipment so she can leave. That guy is just a disgusting pig. He then realizes that the anaconda flower is there, and doesn't understand why she took off her helmet. She only heard that he was handing out some quests, while he is quite happy that she is his type, but she is not giving him any morals. Even though this guy is the boss, she does not accept any kind of disrespectful treatment and knees this guy right in the stomach. She only went there to discuss important matters, and not to find a boyfriend. But that shameless pig keeps saying that she hits really hard. That's why he likes her even more. That guy looks like a masochist, doesn't he? She still doesn't understand why that guy thinks it's so good to be beaten by her, but he just says that protecting that camp is her new duty. A little further away from the forest, there is a camp. If she reaches that camp, she will see some caves in the valley territory, and her new job is to prevent other players from entering that area. She then asks why, but he just says he can't say anything. She then asks if the guildmaster knows that he is using children, and he just said that he knows. In fact, he was the one who planned everything. A guy then starts to smile at her and asks if she's not looking forward to moving up in rank and being able to take care of her brothers, right? Now is the chance she asked God for so much. He then offers his hand, asks her to join him and secure some more money, and he won't hold any kind of grudge for her breaking his nose before. He then asks her to marry him. This guy is sick. So she just grabs the collar of his shirt and lifts him up, saying that if he says any more nonsense, she will send him to base, no matter who he is. But he just said that all the items there must be sent to the guildmaster, and if she interferes with his plans, she will get in trouble. After all, the master of that guild doesn't value her life that much. He starts to say that no one will help her and says that the guildmaster now is the ticket he needed to enter a much higher ranking in the guild. When that guildmaster finally captures that central area, he will be able to join the mission and finally complete the second round. That ring on your finger is the testing ring of the crying lamb spirit. It's the trial ring given by a strange NPC. It demonstrates all the capabilities of a lamb spirit and can also be given to another person. A guy then continues telling her to stay there and be the director of the orphanage, but she continues to be extremely harassed. Our skeleton then realizes that that is the mission. A ghost bat soon notices. The disturbed one holding his sword, he asks, who is that guy? He could be her brother. A skeleton then begins to exhale its power, but the next moment, a skeleton plunges its sword into the ghost bat. While she asks what he is doing, a boss there from that camp continues shouting, what is she doing? How dare you attack the boss of that place? After all, she won't be able to get out of there alive, but the skeleton thinks that this guy is using some kind of accessory. He managed to launch his attack and get out alive. He then begins to activate the dark magic, Shadow Orb in his hand, and launches it towards our protagonist, telling him to go base. But then he sees that our skeleton is intact, even after receiving the attacks from the Shadow Orbs. He asks what that guy is, but we know that the skeleton has magic resistance 45, damage resistance 130, and also has a resistance attribute of 980. His species also grants immunity to magical damage. A guy then now continues to plead for his life. After all, he can give everything he has to that camp there, but the skeleton just thinks he's tired of listening to this guy talking and launches a new attack on it, electrifying his entire body, and finally, the bat player died, leaving his ring. And it's not just one, it's 2 rings. That's the level 10 ring, the giant stone ring. It has a 100% chance of nullifying a fatal attack if the level is below 40. It has a cooldown of 12 hours, and after the guy dies, the cooldown is fully refunded. The other ring is the Weeping Lamb Spirit test ring. It is a ring that can only be used at level 40 and below. It also has a hidden mission that must be activated as soon as the bearer demonstrates all his lamb skills. Our skeleton then thought that this trash had very good equipment. This means that he obtained a lot of equipment from attacking the valley's territory, and his summoner is still sleeping. The other ring there is the Lamb Spirit mission ring. He then decides to leave the life-saving ring to the woman, while she is very gung-ho with it. Now, they sent a leader from that camp from base. How will they get out of there? He's not even giving any morals to what she's saying. After all, that ring from the Crying Lamb test is a boss NPC related to necromancy. He must complete this mission, whatever the cost. He has already collected all the necessary information he had to collect at that location, and it is leaking from there. While the woman keeps asking, where is he going and what is he planning? He keeps thinking that he has to hurry to face those dungeons and steal the mission from them. He arrives at the bar and starts passing by, while one of the soldiers there says that he almost spilled the drink he was holding, but the skeleton just gives him a look of penitence and sends the base guy away without hesitating for a second. He keeps thinking in his head that he must kill all the players from the Hunting Tiger Guild in that camp over there. Everyone there can't believe what's happening there, while the sword is clicking up and down. As full bodies fell, heads rolled. They still don't understand what all the fuss is about. He keeps getting more points. Every time he kills a guy there, he gets 100 points. He now sent a guy named Mountain Goat to base, while that girl says he's not a very smart guy and gets quite scared. After all, how are they going to get out of there? Now they are completely chipped. While he thinks that all the players there are basically level 14, they are all basic class players. There are not even any paladins or mages. A bunch of rookies who are no threat to him decide to attack them all at once. A guy then hits the table saying that he chose the wrong place to carry out his revenge and tells everyone to go after him. He soon sees that that paladin is from the Anaconda Flower team, and he doesn't want any equipment. He will now give 2 choices to our paladin. The first choice is, he will leave all his equipment and go offline now. But the second one is, and before he says the second one, our little protege is already there very close, with his sword imbued in dark power, sending that guy to the base. There's no such thing as Monday. Everyone there keeps saying that Anaconda Flower guy can't control himself. Apparently they are trying to rebel. Everyone there then decides to attack together, and also calls the archers for support, and asks to capture that guy alive, but the protagonist doesn't care. He prefers a hand-to-hand battle. If everyone there can attack him together, he won't be able to escape so so easily. This means he will be able to use his thunder. There's an archer behind him. He already knew this, after all. His investigation skill was active. The archers then begin to shoot several arrows towards him. He then grabs one of the soldiers there and uses it as a shield to protect him. So the guys say he's using lightning on his sword. He's a magic swordsman, and those magic swordsmen don't have long-range abilities, but that's what he thinks, right? Our protagonist already sees that everyone is trying to keep their distance from him, but that won't work. He then begins to activate his bone armor, the arrow-shaped bracer, and immediately aims at an archer who was protected there in the background. He will take care of all the archers first, once they all reveal their locations. He then continues draining his enemy's HP with all those bone arrows. He has already used a total of 7 arrows, now having 43 left. The people there don't understand how a magic swordsman still has a long-range ability. A tank then goes up saying that they have to defeat that guy, whatever the cost. They then decide to reduce the protagonist's movement space, so he won't have a choice. The tank then starts to move, but the skeleton soon knocks over a table, blocking the tank's view. The tank soon charges at the table, breaking it all over, saying that he won't be underestimated that easily. But after he broke the table, Jiang Chong is there the opening he needed. That magic paladin is pretty fast. He cut through that tank pretty easily. While thinking that that guy was wearing very heavy armor, even at very low level, that means he doesn't have very high speed, meaning he is extremely slow and weak. Another one was basic, and now he got another 100 points. He managed to kill a dozen players by himself. Nobody there understands. Since when did that anaconda flower have such strong people on its team? While Jiang Chong says that he will be able to gain a lot of evolution points there, very easily. One of the guys there asks if he's a ranged fighter with magic damage. Maybe it's from some hidden class, right? A guy then arrives smiling, saying that he doesn't seem to be of such a high level, but he has a lot of experience, right? He attacked the player's weaknesses very easily, saying that he is more of a killer than the killer guy there. That is the elite team that belongs to the Vice Guild Master of Viper. Jiang Chong has all the advantage, as his attributes far surpass one of those guys over there. But even if he has the advantage, the level of those guys over there are very high. The guys then activate their speed step, increasing it by 20%, and attack our beloved magical swordsman. Those two are extremely strong, and only think about the loot or money they will get to base that guy. And they, in addition to being strong, fight as if they were a truly elite team. A guy then praises the protagonist, saying that even with all his speed, he continues to withstand the blows very well. While Jiang Chong continues analyzing their movements. Their movements are not very precise, but they are still of a high level. He then decides to end it very quickly. After all, he still has to activate the spirit of the crying lamb to do some kind of selection test. After he completes that test, he will be able to summon a lamb spirit and will be able to pass the designated location. This means that there is an extremely high-level boss inside who far surpasses the monsters in that territory. And after it is activated, all the monsters nearby will increase in level a lot. And all the members of that guild, Tiger Hunter, will be very confused. The levels of the monsters will increase a lot. This means that the only way to increase that meter is to fight monsters. While the killer there doesn't understand what class that guy is, our protagonist only thinks about killing the monsters. This means that the spirit of the lamb is not the ultimate goal of that mission. The ultimate goal is the level 99 undead boss, the Bone Grandmaster Veronica. She is the real architect of this player mission, and whoever manages to complete this mission will not only gain equipment and items, they will also receive scrolls of change for the undead hidden class. This is a very special class, appropriate for who will it be? Protagonist. That woman's luck is also quite incredible. That entire team over there failed to receive that mission. While he thinks, the guys already think that magical swordsman is very strong and extremely intelligent as he dodges some blows. A guy thinks that Paladin is playing with them. They then decide to take a strengthening potion. After all, they're losing the battle. They then increase their stats by about 20% for an hour. That camp over there is a little big, so that means the lamb spirit must have already visited that territory about a week ago. That hunting tiger guild is killing monsters to increase the contemplation meter, but that method is incredibly low. But apparently, that meter must definitely be almost full. He then doesn't have enough time to continue that battle there, and decides to immediately go to the central region. A guy then tells everyone there to use some long-range ability if they are capable, but no one has any long-range ability yet. A guy then starts shouting, saying that potions, flames, daggers, molotovs, anything that can cause damage would be enough. Our protagonist now remains surrounded, thinking that their skill and speed have increased a lot, which means they took the strengthening potion. A protagonist didn't want to use any evolution points. He was trying to save it for the fight against the level 30 Vice Guild Master, but he couldn't waste too much time. The two of them then managed to hit our protagonist, one from the back and the other from the front, while the other players there start to throw grenades at him. Every place there starts to explode with several grenades, and the place there starts to be full of dust and the smell of gunpowder. Did our protagonist die? I don't think so. But a killer over there says he stabbed him, so that means he must be dead, but something isn't right? He then feels a sensation that evolved the Thunderstrike skill. Thunderstrike then reached level 10, and he unlocked the Lightning Body skill branch. Our protagonist has already sent him to his grave. He has his sword stuck there and tells everyone to run. As the guy sees, he has bones underneath his armor, and he really isn't human. And Jiang Chong thinks that now it's his turn to base, and the guy keeps shouting what he is. Meanwhile, our necromancer continues to receive more and more experience. Without understanding what is happening, she wakes up in the middle of all that mess. The redhead soon starts shouting at her. Why does she intend to continue sleeping? What does she want to do? That tiger hunting guild will send thousands of people there to hunt them, but it only stays offline. She doesn't understand anything. After all, if the invoker disconnects, who is operating that invocation? She then deduces that that invocation gained its own consciousness, but that should be impossible. While outside, an enormous power hovers over the entire place, and she continues to not understand anything about what is happening there. Suddenly, when she pokes her head out of the tent, she sees several soldiers there completely dead. Some only had their armor left. She then deduces that everyone there was killed by that invocation. She then deduces that that rich brat disconnected immediately after controlling the summon and killing all these players, but perhaps that is impossible. Consider that the coincidence there. She then decides to sneak out. While our skeleton is there finishing off the remaining survivors, it won't leave a single one alive. He then obtained that red dagger. It has a bleed effect and is also level 3. He remembers that when he was working as a smurf, someone asked him to get him a dagger, but he stopped sleeping many nights to get this item. This means that it was that guy who made that request, but he soon deduces that he was also responsible for his death and sends that guy to base immediately. While the guy screams a lot, the redhead watches the whole scene with great fear, thinking that the one summoned there wants to kill everyone. Our skeleton has now acquired another 120 points. He now has a total of 16,030, but unfortunately, he used up a lot of evolution points because of these guys. He then decides to rush to the central area. If he can complete that mission and help that girl, he will complete his hidden class specialization and will profit a lot. But as soon as he finds the girl, he sees that she is disconnected, and he doesn't know how long she will remain that way. But if she is killed there, that means he will also be killed. Maybe if he had someone very trustworthy who could help him take care of her while he could focus on the battle, it would be quite interesting. Then he soon has an idea. He then goes to the tent and sees the little redhead. He almost forgot about her. She is definitely the right person to do this mission for him, but the redhead is quite worried about him since she was able to see what that summoned one is capable of doing. She goes on to say that that skeleton is strong, but she's not a pushover either. She grabs our skeleton's face and says that if he gets any closer, she'll tell the entire tiger guild there what that guy is. He then sees that he's scared. He then grabs her shoulder while thinking that he just needs a helping hand to help with his plan. She then realizes that he's not attacking her, but she remembers the entire path they took to get there, from the guy he sent from base in the first moment to that giant snake, a green monster, and even the child. Does this summoned really have consciousness? She continues thinking, if he is conscious, that means that when he took her equipment off, he was able to see everything and starts to blush a lot. She then decides to calm down that apparently he is not a pervert. He then decides to take her away while she thinks that she couldn't really trust that guy there. Our protagonist then destroyed the entire camp that was there by blowing up everything and then released all those soldiers that were trapped there, almost dead. People start crying a lot, thanking them for being saved. And the protagonist presents who was the savior of the homeland there. She is the goddess of the solo players in the Valley Territory. She was the one who saved everyone there from the Tiger Guild. If it weren't for her, they would lose everything. All those players there are extremely angry, saying that those from the Tiger Guild used children as traps to make them let their guard down. It won't stay like. While the little redhead is there carrying the necromancer, he really found the right person to help. The little redhead there keeps telling everyone that there is a very plausible reason for all the tigers in the guild there to be hunting. It's not just for money or equipment. It's because of that obscure mission in the Valley Territory. That's the real reason they hid all the information and also took all their supplies. This is all because of the hidden mission. People start to discuss that hidden dungeons can provide rare equipment, very different items, and also a lot of money. That's why those guys were using such dirty tactics, and those over there knew about the tigers' tactics, but most of their force is hunting monsters in the central area right now. Security around the entire valley is quite weak. This is their chance to escape and return to the main city, but apparently no one is wanting to escape from there. After After all, they are about to activate the hidden mission, but they have no money, no weapons, no nothing. How are they going to be able to participate in this mission? But the redhead quickly resolves all the problems and difficulties, saying that there are several traps and area damage items, that the tigers left everything ready. It will be very useful to escape from there. Everyone was amazed that all their problems were completely resolved as well. But what did they want? They are going to be saved. They have gained freedom, money, armor, food. Everything they needed is going well. There's also poison there. There's grenades, there's rope, there's everything they need. The skeleton plan was a success. While people are quite happy, a guy who is apparently an assassin dressed in armor is apparently quite suspicious, but the protagonist just decides to walk away. Everyone there then decides to grab some items and disappear separately, thus preventing a large group from being completely trapped, and they also decide to kill all the guild tigers that are there. Redhead then said that she completed the mission, as the skeleton had told her to. Our protagonist's plan was to make all solo players greatly disrupt the Hunter Tigers Guild. This way, he can hide in plain sight of the hunting tigers and won't give them enough time to notice him. She keeps thinking that that rich brat is quite intelligent, but what she doesn't believe yet is that when the summoner is offline, the summon can still continue following the summoner's orders. She still doesn't understand, right? Now she can't go back to that tiger guild because it will be quite risky, so inevitably, she will have to stay in that group. Will her plan succeed? She continues asking the little skeleton why they are taking the long way. Were they not in a hurry? But before she finishes her sentence, the skeleton already grabs her head and lowers it and tells her to get down. The enemy soon launches several arrows towards them, and none of them manage to hit him. He just sends the person who made the attack out of the darkness. While the guy already reveals that he managed to block even that, he is really strong. That one over there is a dark killer. A class obtained after an assassin specializes in the class and has some very high requirements, and his level is much higher, and his skills are also much higher than that of a normal assassin. A guy then asks, if the two aren't trying to escape, aren't they? They freed all the players and told them about the mission, and also left all the loot for them. Our protagonist's objective is to cause a lot of chaos in the valley with all the solo players, to try to have an opportunity to do something later, and the protagonist's ultimate objective is just the hidden mission. He already deduces that our protagonist is very intelligent, but the redhead only said that she just wants to escape the valley and nothing else, and already has a divine spear. She keeps saying, they just saved him. This guy keeps attacking. He just said he's going to follow them. He's not interested in the mission. He only has one goal, to kill Viper. He just wants to follow them until he finds Viper, and then he can kill that guy with his own hands. If they have a deal, that's all he wants. Protagonist is already observing. Apparently another ally. Damn. Shang is getting extremely strong, and his summoner is just a poor backpack. But the redhead is becoming more and more enchanted with our Jean Shang. I just don't know if her charms are out of fear or out of love for the skeleton. I don't know, huh? I'm thinking that apparently it's fear. This killer is all that was missing. Still, these are all the chapters available, and when more arrive, we will release more. Thank you for watching, thanks, and stay tuned for the next video.